Okay, this is this is the second time in 1 week that I've gotten to introduce myself as a speaker. It's a very strange feeling. So our first speaker today is me. Thank you, I appreciate it. My slides when you're ready. I want to keep this really simple. Ultimately, our goal, and this is, you should understand for all of the organizers here, for Barak, for Elif, for Asla, this is a labor of love. And they do this really because they believe that startups are the answer to not just making a strong world, but making a safe world. I've been coming and been a part of the program now for more than 5 years. And these are 5 thoughts I want to share with you that hopefully help you in your journey. I've started now, it's crazy to say, but 8 companies. Some worked out well, some we closed. But I think I've learned a little bit in the process, and hopefully what I'm going to share will help you. So just 5 quick thoughts. It's in no particular order, but I want to talk about winning. You're at an event where there is a winner at the end, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about investment, revenue, prospect, which hopefully is also important to you, and then the business model canvas. How many know what the business model canvas is? Excellent, good. Okay, so just 5 quick things. Winning, we all at the end of this, right? We all want that sort of feeling that we won, and it's important that we all get that sort of sense of accomplishment, a sense that we took the next step forward in what we're doing. The reality check is, the problem really is that there's only going to be one winner. And so how do we look at winning in a way that's productive? Because it's really not productive to say, well, 99 people leaving are losers. The math doesn't work out very well on that. And in fact, ideally, and if we do this right, you all should come out of this with very good next steps, with very good forward motion. But it's important that we reframe what we're looking at. So I'd like to open it up and kind of talk a little bit about that. So how do you define winning? When you're looking at winning, again, only one will win in terms of going home and can say that they won Startup Istanbul. So what do the 99 others of us want from this? What's another good outcome? Learning. That's excellent. Yeah, what else? Networking. Excellent. Connections, that's kind of networking. So let's maybe even drill into that a bit. Connections is a really good one. So what would be a good connection for you? What would make all the difference for you?
Find another startup that can work together.
Find a partner or a cooperative relationship. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, and there may be a variety of other types of connections that might work as well. What else? What else would be significant for you in terms of an outcome? Funding, or a connection to a good investor. Yeah. Experience, yes. I'm sorry? Exposure, yeah, absolutely. What else? Evaluating, what do you mean?
Evaluate where you stand up now.
Okay. Yeah, get some kind of a measurement as to where you are. Yeah, it's all good. Excellent.
Getting a market perspective from your customers.
Yeah, getting some market feedback. Yeah, all good, yeah. And you went to Istanbul. I mean, how bad is that, right? So we want to make sure that we come out of this. I ended up getting involved in a lot of these events, and it was funny. I worked and helped support a very large invention convention for student entrepreneurs. These students were all between like 5 years old and maybe 12 years old. And of course, they're used to winning prizes if they're last place. And so we really had to work with them a bit to help them understand. And the first time we did this event, the kids were leaving crying. And it wasn't really our goal. And they were getting lots out of it. It was really good learning and all that. But they didn't see it because they had placed all of the priority on a trophy. And let's imagine you never win a trophy in entrepreneurship, but you build a valuable business. Is that a better goal?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so use this as a benchmark, or as you said, a measurement in terms of where you are. So all good. So let's talk about investment. How many here are here for investment? Oh, come on, don't be bashful. I know there's more of you. Come on. Come on. Okay, so there are some, unfortunately, we've sold you a really, really, really bad story. And this is, the global entrepreneurship ecosystem has been selling this sort of myth that investment is the key to building a valuable business. And I'm not saying investment isn't important for some businesses, but the math doesn't quite bear out kind of what you should be focused on. So the myth is really pretty tough. So we've said that entrepreneurship is 3 easy steps. This is kind of what's been sold. It's first you have to have an idea, right? You have to think up some idea. Then you have to raise money. You got to get a lot of money. And then finally, you get to buy a yacht. It's all pretty straightforward. Anyone excited about this journey? Just have an idea, raise some money, buy a yacht, right? So we all know that that's probably not going to be the path, right? So the problem is that actually the statistic is that only 1% of companies started ever raise angel or venture funding. Again, we're dealing with 1%, 1 out of 100. It's amazing how that number keeps recurring here. So the idea is 99 of us 100, should be focused, and in fact, even the 100th of 100 should be focused on revenue. Revenue is the only way, number one, to validation, to any kind of business independence, any kind of personal independence, and there's so many other attributes. But the challenge is, if you take so much time, the problem with those of us that are building companies, when you're aiming at an early stage in investment, you end up whitewashing a lot of your problems because you want your slides to look good, you want your pitch to sound good, that you change your model to appeal to an investor, and you end up, and again, the percentages tell us not many are going to get investment, and so then you haven't really focused on building a business. And instead, if you find a problem worth solving, a demand-centered oriented business, then you build that, you will have investors finding you as you get revenue. You don't have to worry about, when you have revenue, you don't have to worry about investment. They will find you because what? Investors need return. They're very simple to understand and very important to businesses that are scaling. But you have to be growing at a rate where you can give them 10 times their money back in somewhere around 5 years. So if you're not growing at that rate, you have to grow another way. You have to find, bootstrap and so on. It's really important. So again, the percentages say that very few in this room will get investment. That's not bad. It doesn't mean that you have a bad business, right? Oh shit, right? Only 1% get investment. So we have to sort of reframe again that just because you don't get investment doesn't mean you have a bad business. It just means you're not going to grow at the rate or to the size that makes you investable. You can still have a great lifestyle and a great business and be very successful. So again, think about what you're building and sort of the best path to that. And certainly you'll have lots of opportunities to talk to mentors over the next few days about this, but make sure that you sort of manage that and that expectation. So yeah, the risk of investment before validation is massive because you're essentially saying I can do this and I'm going to grow quickly, but you haven't validated that the market will sustain that. And this ties really very directly into the conversation on revenue. So obviously revenue has so many attributes. It's important to businesses in so many different ways. Ultimately, it provides sort of 5 or 6 really key things. Number one is it's fuel for the business. Obviously, it provides that same attribute that investment does. In other words, it helps us pay ongoing expenses, invest in the future of the business. It also helps us with validation. So how many people here have worked for someone? Who's had a job? Sorry to bring up this. Yeah, sorry about that. So imagine one day you go into your boss and you ask your boss, and probably many of us have done this, how am I doing, right? I want to get feedback. Tell me how I'm doing. What could I do better? All those types of things. The normal conversation is what? What does your boss tell you? This is the interactive part, just so you guys know. What? You think? Most of the time they tell you really good things, right? Because it's cheap. It costs them nothing to encourage you. Okay. Well, in his experience, maybe you should take this personally. They're telling you you could work harder and you're average. My experience has been, and maybe some of the rest of you have had this, is where do you get really good feedback? Yes?
From my experience,
Yeah.
You are doing good until you are asking for a better raise.
Okay, now that you know where I'm going, right? So yeah, so when it's cheap, it's very easy to reinforce that you're doing well. In other words, there's no cost to them encouraging you, right? So you get very positive feedback, very reinforcing feedback. And then the next day you go in and you say, hey, yesterday you told me about all these good things I'm doing. I'd like to earn more money. Can I have a raise? Suddenly you'll get the real feedback, right? Suddenly you'll learn all your warts. You'll learn what you could do better. And this is exactly the same thing that happens with companies that are a hypothesis. It's a hypothesis until somebody pays you money. And that's the only, people say go out and do surveys, go out and do all these, very sophisticated things. The only survey that matters is when somebody pays you money. So make sure that you can get so many false positives if you accept feedback that isn't an exchange of equal value. And so revenue can do lots of things. It's hugely important for validation. So the next is customer engagement. It's really important to make sure that our customers are bought in equally to the process. Co-investing is a big part of it. Team confidence. One of the big issues with startups and scale-ups is that most of us, one of the things that's sort of not talked about in our space is that we only have a certain amount of time to succeed or fail. And it usually comes, if you almost imagine an hourglass, and that sand is leaking out of the hourglass with every day that we're working on our startup. And the problem is our team is only going to stay together for so long. The people who are invested in us, our family, our excitement and interest in it's finite. And once it goes, it goes. Once team members begin leaking out, once customers, begin not seeing us grow and add features, all those things really sort of degrade where the business can go. So we want to have traction early. Revenue victories like that, nothing replaces it like new revenue and new customers. Sorry for the builds here. This came across a little different. Obviously, the bigger we are, the more sustained we are, the more we de-risk buying our product or service or investing in our company to either the customers or the investors. So making sure that we take advantage of that is really important. So that's kind of the key to revenue and why we really want to have make sure that we're using revenue and prioritizing it, because then we get to move forward much quicker. So prospect. So I have a business that is all around helping companies get traction and scale, help them move very quickly to grow their business. And so we spend a lot of time with customers sort of re-educating them about what a prospect is. And we tend to, and you want to be really careful of this, is way too broadly think of who a prospect is for our business. And it's impossible for a young business to have a broad sort of sense of prospect because you have such limited resource to be able to attract new customers. We want to very narrowly define who they are, because that's going to both help us focus our marketing, but also focus our product development. So we're focusing on building it to a specific archetype, really important. So let's talk about what a prospect is. A prospect has 3 key attributes. Can anyone help me with what one of those attributes is? What do you got? Say, I'm sorry? An age group. Well, let's think maybe I'm not sure. So an attribute would be, what is a feature of a prospect that's important for us to focus on. So it might ultimately be an age group, but it probably falls within a bigger category. The capacity to pay, absolutely. They have money, right? So a prospect has money or the capacity to pay. Yes, what else? A need, yes. Number 2, yes. What else? What's number 3?
Industry.
Say that again? Industry, not quite, no. Say this again? Product. So we're talking about a prospect, not your business. We're talking about what a prospect, somebody who would buy your service or product. Scalability, not quite. You said decision making. Yeah, they would have money. I think that probably, if they have the money, they probably have decision making, right? I'm sorry? Segmentation. No, I may need to help you with this one. Have you ever met anyone who has a need and has money, but doesn't make a decision? So what would you call them? Well, if it's not in their top 3 on their priority list, right? Right? So they have to be urgent. So they have to have, the easy way to think of this is they have to have a need, they need to have money, and they need to be urgent, or even easier, need money now. And having those qualities, excuse the builds again, sorry. And we'll get to the final slide here. There we go. So need money now. And so when you think about how do you define who a prospect is, nothing works better than this. And you ultimately want to eliminate people that you're aiming at that don't fit this, because you'll waste your sales time, you'll waste your marketing time and resources, and you'll develop the wrong product if you're not aiming at these people. So absolutely love people that fit within this box, because those are the ones that are going to help you drive revenue sooner and scale your business. So maybe the easiest way, and again, we're in this industry, so we get to think of all sorts of interesting metaphors. So who here fishes? Who here goes fishing, catches fish? I see a few, right? Yeah, so what we've learned is that people that fish make 3 basic decisions before they leave their house. So the first decision they make is, what do I want to catch? Right? The next decision they make is, where will I go fishing? And the third decision they make is, what bait will I put in the water? Those are very fundamental. And if you understand those from a marketing standpoint, what do I want to catch is, what's my prospect, right? What's my prospect? So let's talk about how, when we look at these 3 decisions, so this just gives you a view of the freshwater fish in North America. Sorry, I don't have a Middle Eastern or European or MENA representation of the fish. I apologize. But so just to give you a sense, globally, there are 34,000 species of fish, plus many subspecies. So think about the elegance of the decision somebody that fishes makes. They are so smart, and they're so much better than those of us that market. Somebody that fishes is a successful fisherman or fisher person, eliminates 33,999 species of fish before they leave their house. That makes it a lot easier to catch the fish you want, doesn't it? I'm not going to catch these 33,999. I'm only aiming at this one. And so what? They go to the body of water where those fish are, and then they will put the bait in the water that fish is attracted to. And quite often, they go with multiple baits because they want to do some testing. Testing is critically important to the process. So we want to test the hypothesis of who our prospect is, who we want to catch. We want to test our assumptions about where they are. And we want to test the various bait we can put in the water, so that as we're beginning to market, we improve how we find and then convert those prospects into customers, into paying customers. Really important. So start fishing. Fishing is really key. Again, it all begins, if you think of it, the North Star, the true north, fishing is really that. If you find the right fish, everything else should align to that in terms of how you market, how you develop your product, how you train your team, all that, and onboard your team. They should be aligned with that customer type. So the business model canvas, sort of my last major point here. So many of you raised your hands. We asked about who's familiar with the business model canvas. So it's an incredible tool. I think one of the challenges, though, is it's been introduced. So what did this replace? For those that are kind of familiar with the background, what did this replace? A business plan. Exactly right. So how long was a business plan in the old days when there were newspapers and things like that? Yeah, 30 to 100 pages. It depends, right? It could be very big. So here we've represented a business plan, and this is actually probably even more sophisticated than a business plan, even though it's just on one page. And the problem is that it's not obvious that it's that sophisticated. It looks fairly simplistic. So we get this sense that, oh my gosh, I fill in these 9 rectangles and I have a business. It's easy, super easy, like the 1, 2, 3 for entrepreneurship. So here's the challenge I see most companies having is that they actually try to fill in all 9. I would suggest if you're at a startup stage, you should only be concerned with these 2. So you have customer segment and value proposition. Until you answer those 2 questions, you don't need to move on to any of the others. The rest only are significant once you have confidence in these. And so you want to do testing. You want to develop your hypotheses about who your prospects are and what value proposition they'll respond to. Test that, find traction there, and then begin answering the other questions. But the real hazard here is if you try to answer all these, what you'll see, and you'll see this in your mentorship sessions, is you'll tend to defend your idea because you've invested so much time, so much money, so much of your personality into this business idea, is you'll defend it. And if you defend, what happens? You stop listening, right? You stop, and it's not so much to the mentors, but you stop listening to customers. You start sort of rationalizing why you've done what you've done because of what you've invested. What you want, and the best entrepreneurs I see are those that have no ego. They're totally okay with being wrong. In fact, they want to know they're wrong quicker because that helps them iterate, it helps them evolve. So my recommendation would be as you're using this tool, and some of you, what you're working on now is just a step in what you will work on in 2 years, right? This some of you, and the statistics are probably half will be doing something else in 2 years, maybe even in a year. So use these lessons. You don't, just because you've started a certain way, you're not sort of confined to that or confined to that with whatever you do next. So, use the tools, and again, it's hard because the owner's manual to this is limited. There are certainly good tools, but some of this you have to learn on your own. You have to make some of the mistakes too. I know because I've made them, or at least enough. The only place where investment comes before sales is in the dictionary. So make sure that you're focused on and aligned with creating sales. So the success here is in your hands. I have one last thing I want to share before I bring Marilyn up. And so how many people here cook pancakes? Do you like pancakes? All right, so we have more likers of pancakes. So for those that cook pancakes, what's the problem with cooking pancakes? What's the deal with the first pancake? What's different about the first pancake? It's never right. Yeah, exactly right. The first pancake is terrible, right? It's a throwaway. Usually you feed it to the dog, right? So the thing is, and we recognize that many of you speaking in public is not a normal thing. It's not something you do every day. And so coming up here and speaking is not in your comfort zone. It's okay. We all are at stages of development. And so the thing that somebody that cooks pancakes does, their goal is to have really good pancakes. But they know in order to cook really good ones, they have to, every time they cook them, cook really bad ones. And so I think it's the thing that people who speak in public also recognize is that in order to speak well, you have to be prepared to speak poorly. And just getting up here is a part of the process of evolution. And so sort of embracing that, being okay with not necessarily being perfect, helps you actually get the batter onto the griddle and let it cook. And then you start. And the next time you do it, it's better. So, the practice you'll do today, use that time. It's imperfect. Tomorrow, you'll do the demo day pitch. Again, it's imperfect. We're all still evolving. Embrace that opportunity to evolve. It's really different to come up from a place of growth rather than a place of fear. You're among friends. Enjoy this opportunity and get the most out of it. So we welcome you here. It's so fantastic to see all the smiling faces in the room. If you can only see my perspective. I have to say, though, it's probably a solid 5 degrees warmer up here. As the room gets more crowded, it only gets warmer. But thank you. This has been wonderful to spend time with you.